Hello, everybody. Today we'll be reviewing two important processes that are used while programming in Python called selection and iteration. So you use these processes outside of Python as well. It's a general coding practice. So first, let's start with selection because in my opinion is the simpler of the two concepts. So for selection, you can read here. Selection works by testing a condition. So the condition it gives a boolean result like true or false. So if the result is true, the program follows one path. If it isn't, then it follows the other path. So selection can be implemented using if else, or if ELIF else statements. So first we start with the if statement. It's the simplest one. So it only has the if condition, so it executes a piece of code if a statement applied is true. The if else statement, it provides an alternative path in case if the statement is not true. So the code can execute some other process. The if else statement does similar action to the if else statement, but instead of only one extra path, you can add more paths, such as like you can check multiple conditions in a sequence. Then we have the nested if statement. Like you can have statements like these inside another statement, like an if statement inside an if statement. So the program we have here, it creates a grade calculator that takes a numerical score as an input and calculates the corresponding letter grade and provides feedback based on the grade. So let's look at the code here. So if the score is greater than or equal to 90, the program will return a grade of A, which is pretty good. If the score is greater than or equal to 80, it will return B. Only if the above condition is not true, like if the above condition hasn't been satisfied, only then it will proceed to the ELIF statement. The next ELIF statement, it gives a C if the score is greater than or equal to 70. And the one after that gives a D if the score is greater than or equal to 60. The reason why every single one of them does just like straight up not give like a D to all the scores is because if the condition above has been satisfied, the program just does not move on to the next one. So like if the score is above 90, it just gives an A and moves on to the next task instead of like checking if it's above 80, 70, or 60 as well, like which it always is. So providing feedback for a grade, this is a separate one. This like a nested if statement. So if the grade is like either A or B, like it gives you like specific feedback that it would not give you for C or D. So for example, if grade is A, then the program, and then and only then the program will tell you if it's excellent work, keep it up. If it's not A, but it's still an A on B, it's going to be a B. So it's going to return good job, you're doing well. If it's not an either A or B, if the grade is C, then it just says you're in the right track, but there's room for improvement. If it's not C and it's D, it says you need to work harder, consider seeking help. If it's neither of these, so like if it's like E or like F or something, it says you're struggling, please talk to your teacher for support. Then there's the then you get to this part of the program, you just get an input from the user, and it turns it into a float from a string. Then it uses a function for calculating the grade that we have over here, the same one when it's above 90, say, etc. So it calculates the grade and provides the feedback using this function above over here. Then it prints error must be between 0 and 100 only if the score is between like 0, if the score is not between 0 and 100, if like 120 or something, or like -1. Except value error print, please enter a valid number. The value error over here, it means that we have not entered some text that can like if we you can see here like it says float input enter your score 0 to 100 over here. So if you enter like a string like a dog or a cat or something, it can't turn that into a decimal number. So provides an exception for value error. So it asks you to enter a valid number. This makes sure that you only enter numbers or like decimal numbers for these types of programs and prevents the program from crashing if you entered like a wrong type of value. So now let's move on to iteration. So iteration is different from selection in that like iteration is like whenever you're like looping through a program, you're going over every value. So let's read the text over here. Iteration enables programmers to execute a section of code multiple times without writing it out repeatedly. So the part of the code that does iteration, it just repeats a specific action over several values. So for count control iteration for a loop, the block of code is predetermined number of times executed. So in Python, this is implemented using a for loop, which includes a control variable to determine how many times the code is executed. So the syntax for variable in sequence. So for condition control iteration in the while loop, it repeatedly executes a block of code as long as the specified condition is true. So like later in the program, the condition might be changed to false, so the while loop might stop running. So in Python, this is implemented using a while loop. So for break and continue statements, these are a bit different. Break just exits the loop prematurely when a certain condition is met, and continue skips the rest of the current iteration and moves on to the next one. So, so this program uses these concepts to simulate a fitness tracker. So in the program we developed a fitness tracker over here. So like it does all these functions. You can read that later. We have imported a random library over here for some extra functionality that is not like by default given in Python. So So what this part of the program does, it simulates a random number of steps per hour. So in a range of hours, it takes 1 hour. It takes a random number between 1,000 and 2,000, and it adds it to the total number of steps. So then it returns the total number of steps. So then next we have calculating calories. So it sets the initial calories to 0, minutes to 0, and while the total calories are less than goal calories, it simulates a random number of calorie burned per minute and it adds it to the total calories. So when the the process repeats every minute, every 10 minutes, the print progress. So it just says if minutes remainder 10 is 0, it prints the total calories burned. If total calories are exceeding goal calories, like you already exceeded the goal, so the program breaks, so the loop does not run. The next we have a step goal challenge for like from each day from 1 to max days. It generates a random number of steps from 5,000 to 15,000. If the steps exceed the daily goal, it prints the success message, it breaks the loop, or else it prints the day's steps count. If the loop completed without break, the print challenge failed message is shown. So a random number of steps generated. If the steps is exceeding the daily goal, it just breaks the loop, or else it prints like keep going or like another motivational message. Next, we have a weekly workout plan. It's using a for loop for iteration. So if a day is 1 or 7, like weekend days or something, it just says like it's a rest day and it asks you to continue. Like it skips to the next iteration. Otherwise, it gives you a random duration of workout. There's a monthly step tracker, which does the same thing the daily step tracker does, but it takes a range of 1 to 31, and it takes a random number of steps and it adds it to the monthly total. Then, but then at the end of each week, it gives a weekly summary by saying if it's like a multiple of 7. So like every day that's a multiple of 7 is assumed to be the end of a week. So at that date, it gives you the weekly summary, or at the end of the month, it gives you a monthly summary. Then we utilize this function in the main function at the end. So we have 8 hours, then count steps per each hour. So we get a random number of steps. Then we print that. Then we have a calorie goal. Then we have minutes. And we calculate the calories in the goal. Then we have several examples of break statement, continue statement, and nested iteration. So that's the end for today. I'll share this code with you because it's quite advanced and it covers every bit of iteration. Same I'll do with selection because it's also like quite advanced relatively. I'll send it on GitHub and you can have a look at it and download it because all this code will be open sourced. So yeah, see you next time.